You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on demand. Good for you. Now download the KFYO app and listen live weekday afternoons 5 to 7 p.m. Central.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Amarillo, Abilene, Wichita Falls, Midland, Odessa, Dallas, Fort Worth. Down in Houston, over in El Paso, and anywhere else. Inside or outside of the great state of Texas, wherever you may be listening, welcome into the Chad Hasty Show. Glad to have you with us today here on the program this September 11th, 2024, the day after the debate. Also, the 23rd anniversary of 9/11, the terrorist attacks against our nation. We will, of course, talk about that as we do every single year here on the program. We take your remembrances, where you were, where you what you remember about that day. We do that every single year. And so we'll be doing that again today. We'll also be taking a look back on last night's debate. Oh, how was that? How you feeling after last night's debate? To me, well, it wasn't the greatest of debates. Let's just lay that out right now. It was not the greatest of debates. It was not Donald Trump's best debate performance, and it was downright shameful from ABC News. ABC News, this may have been, out of all the horrible, terrible, no good, very bad moderated debates that I've seen, this might have been the worst debate ever moderated in the United States. I don't know about other countries. I don't know about other nations. But I know here in the United States, this may have been the worst. If you're Candy Crowley of CNN, you've got to be very happy today because the time that you interjected yourself and made yourself look foolish in a CNN debate, people will long forget about that. That's done. That's way in the past after the stunt ABC News pulled last night with their two so-called moderators who decided to fact-check, in their own opinion, Donald Trump, which moderators are not supposed to do, by the way. Moderators are supposed to, they're not supposed to become part of the story. They're not supposed to become part of the discussion. You're not supposed to discuss them the next day, except to maybe say, they asked some really good questions. It's supposed to be up to the candidates to fact check each other and to go back and forth with each other. And Donald Trump faced not only ABC News in the debate, but he also faced Kamala Harris and all of her lies that she told on her portion of the debate. She looked great. Like, listen, if you were, and you remember, you have to take yourselves out of the shoes that you're currently wearing right now, okay? Take yourself out of the shoes that you're currently wearing right now. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who is undecided. They haven't been paying attention to the race. They don't know who they're going to vote for. They don't know who Kamala Harris really is. They're not sure they like Donald Trump because he's mean. You have to put yourself in the shoes of that person. And Kamala Harris looked pretty good last night. Now, did she tell you anything in particular? Did she give you any plans? Did she tell you any details? No, but she didn't have to. She didn't have to because ABC News didn't press her, and Donald Trump really didn't press her either when it came to her actual plans for the next 4 years. Donald Trump ended the debate really well by saying, hey, you've been in office for 4 years and you haven't done anything. But he should have said that at the very beginning and peppered it throughout the evening. Trump was on defense the entire evening. It was by far his worst debate. Now, will it really matter? I don't think so. I don't think it'll really matter. I think Donald Trump had a great chance of slamming the door shut last night on the election and saying it's over. But that didn't happen. So it's still going to be a close election. It's still going to be one that is going to be fought in the swing states. We know that, but that was going to be how it played out anyway. There's just a small amount of people who are really undecided. A very, 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 very small amount of people who are undecided. And one debate is not going to change that, especially a debate where you still walked away and you couldn't really tell anyone what Kamala Harris stands for, except that she has plans. Okay, all right, she's got plans. I still think people walked away from that going, well, who do I trust more with the economy? Well, it's going to be Donald Trump. Who do I trust more when it comes to foreign affairs? It's going to be Donald Trump. Who do I trust more when it comes to the border? It's going to be Donald Trump. So on those three issues, I think people still check the box for Donald Trump. But still, I think more could have been done on Trump's side. So anyway, we'll get to that throughout the program. Texter, the Don did pretty good taking 3-on-1. Yeah, he did. And I hope Republicans remember what ABC News did last night. I really do. I hope Republicans remember what ABC News did and that ABC News is no longer allowed to, or that at least no Republican accepts an invitation to debate on ABC News for a very, very, very long time. Because what ABC News did last night to any responsible journalist, to anyone who is semi-responsible, trying to be quote-unquote independent, last night was an embarrassment for the journalism, for journalists out there and the profession of journalism. It was embarrassing for them. They're supposed to act independent. They're supposed to act as, and we all know that they're not. We know that they're not, but let's be honest. There are people who have done a much better job being moderators than the absolute circus that we saw last night from ABC News. It was terrible. And so we will discuss that. I want to get your thoughts on the last night's debate. What you thought about it? Did you even watch last night's debate? I want to hear from you. You can text in at 806-680-2790. Of course, we watched. We were at Premier Cinemas. We had a great time. It came down to the wire to get. Well, they had some technical difficulties getting the debate going, but once they did, it was good to go. And kudos to the guys at Premier Cinemas for not giving up, because I can tell you I think for a full hour, just about for a full hour, they were working on trying to get the feed up for the debate, and not sure, they weren't sure what was going wrong with it. So for a full hour, they worked on it and found a solution. And I give them kudos because that's good customer service. There's a lot of places that would have gone, I don't know. About 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, they would have gone, we don't know. We don't know what to do. Sorry. But no, they did a good job. Kudos to the staff at Premier Cinemas. Appreciate them going above and beyond to accommodate the great audience that we had last night. It was a full house last night. Appreciate everybody who came out, all the good people who came down, said hello. Appreciate that. Always good to meet the listeners. Never worry. Always feel free to come down, say hello, and shake hands, all that kind of good stuff. Good to meet people last night. Gave away some nice prizes, all that kind of good stuff. I doubt there will be another debate, but if there is one, we will we'll have another watch party. But again, I doubt there will be another debate. 806-680-2790. The first voice you hear from when you dial in today. He was in much demand last night as everyone wanted to meet the sweater. Nick, how are you today?
I'm doing okay. And it's funny you brought last night up. I was hungry. I was hungry last night.
You were hungry, yeah.
And I found out, this is something, and in fact, some people next to me, they had no idea about this either. You can buy other food than popcorn at Premier Cinema.
Yeah, I had mentioned that probably 10 times.
I never listened. Yeah. I didn't listen to that.
Yeah, right here.
I did not hear
I
that.
had mentioned you can buy numerous food items at Premier Cinemas, yes.
Well, there's a menu. They give you a menu when you go up there. Because I went up and I literally just said, I'm hungry. And I said, I don't really know what to get. Everything kind of looks good, but I'm conflicted. What should I get? And so the lady there, she was like, well, she's like, yeah, you can take a look at our menu. I was like, a menu? So I opened it up. So many options. I got the chicken and tater tots as a 6-year-old child would. It was very good. Little buffalo sauce. Delicious. But my point is, I paid with cash. And I never pay with cash. So whenever I do, I don't feel as guilty. And I feel like that's opposite. I think when people pay with cash, they get the opposite feeling. They feel, because it's tangible. So they feel a little more broken inside when they pay with cash. But for me, I use my card all the time. I use my credit card or my debit card either all the time whenever I buy anything. So whenever I do cash, I'm like, it's not in my it's already out of my account. I don't my brain doesn't associate it with this is the money that I have earned. This is in my bank account. No, it's out of my bank account. Yeah. So it's not, because when I think about the money I have, I look at my bank account. I don't check my wallet. And so I'm like, hey, bonus. I have a $10 bill, $20 bill. It's a little bonus. And so it felt great. I got wonderful food. And, I didn't feel the regret of the purchase regret of doing that. So
good.
Yeah, I had a good time last night.
That's excellent. Yeah. I think a lot of people did. And there was much booing and hissing going on in the audience. That's one of the things that I like about when we all get together.
Yeah.
You got people who are just yelling at the big screen and you're really getting into it. And I think it's kind of fun to listen to and fun to watch.
I almost got hit by a piece of garbage. So that it really riled everyone up.
I saw that. I saw a piece of garbage get thrown
right next to me,
and I wondered if was that aimed at you? Was it aimed at the big screen? I don't know what it was.
I don't know either. I don't know where it was aimed. If it was aimed at me, it was a horrible shot.
Right.
It missed me, but I did see it, a projectile.
Yeah.
Right past. So I don't know. Hey, it got a little heated.
Yeah.
I understand. Everyone was a little.
Does anyone know if Matt Crow was there, the Ayatollah Khomeini? Did he try to take you out via a piece of garbage last night?
He could have. I don't know.
That could be something. Or maybe he had someone in the crowd and they looked at you and went, I'm gonna get him. Yeah. I'm gonna throw a piece of trash at the kid.
This one's for Matt.
And this one's for Matt. Yeah. And maybe they threw something at you and tried to hit the sweater
and missed horribly.
Yeah. Well,
but they tried.
Listen, you were in the front there. Yeah, go watching. We've got a lot that we'll be getting into throughout the show today. Of course, today is the 23rd anniversary. The September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks. And we ask you this, as we do every single year, because it's important to never forget. We said that after the terrorist attacks, that we would never forget. And one of the ways to never forget is to continue talking about it, and to continue remembering where you were on that day, September 11th, 2001. I want to hear your stories. Where were you? What was going on? What were you supposed to be doing that day? Maybe your plans got completely canceled, as many people did that day. Where were you? What did you experience? What was the experience like for you on September 11th, 2001? Where were you? What do you remember about that day? You can text in. I already have some folks texting in at 806-680-2790. You can also call in with your remembrances at 1-800-687-0790. That's 1-800-687-0790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, and more.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at kfyo.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. Robert in Oklahoma, I told you mud wrestling was even better than that debate last night. Another text coming in. Let's see. I don't know why he wouldn't call her out on her lies. He should have said, we have videos of you saying it. I don't, and there are many angles to analyze last night's debate on. I don't know if Trump was just flustered. I don't know. I had seen some people say that he didn't take debate prep seriously. I don't know about that. Again, in every other debate, Trump's been on and has done very well. I think that part of him was maybe a little bit flustered by last night. I'm not quite sure. He definitely did not seem ready to play offense and, and deflect some of the questions that were coming his way. He should have deflected away from the whole January 6th deal. He should have deflected away from that. When asked about whether he believes the election was stolen or not, he should have ignored that question and talked about how we need to secure elections and we need to stop the Democrats from registering illegal immigrants as voters as they want to do, and we need to go ahead and pass the SAFE Act that they're trying to pass in Congress right now, that Republicans are trying to pass. One of the really good moments that I thought Trump did have, but so much was going on that you may have missed it, was when Trump looked at Kamala Harris and asked if she believed if there were any exceptions to abortion, or if she was for, any time limits on abortion, and she wouldn't answer the question. In fact, instead she was firing back at him, asking if he would veto a bill that would ban abortion in the United States, which Trump had said numerous times that it was never going to happen. But that was a really good question that Trump asked, but it kind of got muffled over in the back and forth between the two, even though her microphone was supposed to be shut off. But they never shut off her microphone. They shut Trump's microphone off, but they never did shut hers off. When we come back, more of your text messages, including text messages on 9/11. We'll be right back.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. VA disability compensation is a monthly tax-free payment to veterans who got sick or injured in the military and to veterans whose service worsened an existing condition. You may qualify for VA disability compensation for physical and mental health conditions that developed or worsened due to service. Learn more at va.gov/disability.
Chance Wilcox lived his life with a kind heart, and anyone would tell you that. But I'll never forget the call that my only son, with so much life ahead of him, had been killed instantly by a distracted driver on her cell phone. The happiness we all had and enjoyed up until that time was gone in 1 second by a 100% preventable action.
Heads up, Texas. Using your phone behind the wheel can be deadly. Talk, text, crash. Brought to you by TxDOT.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Don't you forget about Chad at Chad Hasty Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and on your radio. Now back to the Chad Hasty Show.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. Texter weighing in about last night. They didn't watch last night's debate, or maybe this is going back to 9/11. Excuse me. My wife and I were getting ready to go to the hospital to give birth to my firstborn child. And from Scooter, thanks for texting in, Scooter. Appreciate that. Let's see, another texter weighing in. This is from Robert. September 11th, 2001. I was on Combat Systems Maintenance Central watch on the USS Chancellorsville in Japan. That from Robert. Retired Navy 401. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate your service as well. Let's go to the phones and want to hear from you of course, if you want to talk about last night's debate, we can do that. But also, we're remembering 9/11, 2001. Where were you? What do you remember about that day? That's how we never forget. Remember, the days after, that's what we always said. We'd never forget. And sadly, there are a lot of people who are forgetting what happened on that day, or trying to equate, what happened on January 6th to being worse than what happened on 9/11. And we need to remember what actually happened on that day. We go out to North Carolina. That's where Gene is calling us from. Gene, welcome to the Chad Hasty Show. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you, Chad?
Doing wonderful. Thanks for giving us a call.
My pleasure. I was a Delta flight attendant, 9/11. It was my only day off, and I got a call early that morning. My sister, who worked for another major carrier, was on tarmac outside of San Diego, ready for takeoff with her crew, and she said they finally did it. They took the towers down.
Wow.
And we turned the TV on, and we thought it was some kind of a joke. You know, you go into a sense of shock. This can't be happening. Anyway, what happened from the inside was nobody really understood immediately what was happening. I was able to get her and her crew, bring them back up to base. And from the inside, they were trying to decide what to do, and they made a decision to get everybody on the ground in a very short period of time. And what I would like to say is I knew things would never be the same. The good thing was that after that, passengers were willing to help and do whatever was necessary. They were not going to ever allow themselves to be in that position again. And in reflection, we had all these people come in from other countries. They planned this attack, and I see a strong correlation between our open border. We lived in the state. We lived in the state with the open border. We left it because of what they were doing. And all these people coming in, we do not know who they are. This could happen easily again. I was just talking to a friend today. His son is in Aurora, Colorado. He was just in a gas station. This was yesterday or the day before. These folks pulled in. There were 4 of them. He said they're Venezuelan. He just knew. They were armed. They ran into the store and they robbed the store. And he called 911 and left. And he is going to move out of the state. He said it's falling apart. They're in the cities, and we are at great risk. Having lived through 9/11, I don't think anybody ever wants to go through that again. I know we certainly don't.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up Aurora. There was actually there's a story out today that Colorado police have identified members of this Venezuelan gang who are going through, and this is in Aurora, Colorado. It's not in New York City. It's not down in South Texas. This is in Aurora, Colorado. It shows that the border's everywhere now, and that you have this deadly Venezuelan gang carrying out attacks against not only civilians, U.S. citizens in Aurora, Colorado, but also they're going after other Venezuelans who live and have been transported or moved to Aurora and are there illegally.
Mm-hmm.
It's very dangerous.
They're coming to every city in the U.S., and unless we get our borders secured, which this administration has refused to do, and frankly, I believe if they get in again, they will not shut the border. We are going to be in a terrible situation with crime. It's already here. We have the fentanyl problem. I don't see anything good. Do you?
Not with how it's at right now, no. It can only lead to, and it only has been leading to bad things, and a lot of it's not even covered when it comes to the amount of attacks that are going on, and just attacks against citizens and just other people, attacks against police officers. You kind of hear it when it happens in New York City because that's where all the news stations are gathered. You kind of hear a little bit of it. But you're hearing more about it in Colorado. You're hearing more about it. I definitely would not want to live in a big blue city right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hate. Really appreciate the call, and very interesting with your background being a flight attendant for Delta back in 2001, and I just imagine that it had to be just absolutely crazy and very worrisome. In the days and weeks afterwards about just flying again and getting back into the sky and everything else.
Well, I would like to say this. I was in the air 4 days after 9/11. We had 4 passengers come with us. They thanked us for showing up. We thank them for coming.
Yeah.
And Delta was terrific. They went out of their way and told everyone, if you need time, you take it. We support you. We're all in this together. And it was a moment of real unity, which I will always remember and cherish.
Yeah, absolutely. Gene, thank you so much. Have a great day in North Carolina.
Thank you, Chad. Take care.
You too. 806-680-2790. You can text in. Another texter on there where they were on 9/11. 9/11/2001, I was at work. Everyone stopped working, gathered around the TV in the break room. Total silence is the main thing I remember. That and profound sadness. Another texter weighing in. Something they were in high school. It was in high school. The teachers first brought in or first turned on the TV and allowed us to watch. Then after about an hour, we were told we could not watch anymore. There were some other classrooms that did allow the kids to watch. Those in the younger grades weren't allowed to watch at all. Yeah, and that's a lot of what we heard back at that time. Is that especially elementary school kids, they didn't turn the televisions on for the elementary, maybe I guess junior high kids. A lot of high school kids did get to watch, and then it's something again. Everyone remembers where they were on that day. You can call in 1-800-687-0790. You can text in at 806-680-2790. When we come back, more of your debate thoughts, more of your 9/11 thoughts when we come back.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
I'm a pretty great multitasker. I can wash dishes and do laundry. I can roller skate while walking my dog. I can even order lunch while doing my homework. But I can't use my phone while driving. A distracted driver is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. So when it comes to driving, please, don't be a multitasker.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's interesting. Every year we do this, and I get people who do ask, why every year? Why do you do the same thing every year on 9/11? Why do you do it? Because we one, I think it's important to remember. Two, I think it's healthy to remember and healthy to talk about. And also, we get new and interesting stories. And Gene, a new caller, we have not heard that story before. And it's fascinating to hear, where different people were, different times. And it's one event that does unite so many of us. Another texter weighing in. My nephew was stationed in the Pentagon. His office was in the section that was hit by the plane. His parents tried for several hours to reach him before he finally called them. Turned out he was on vacation visiting his in-laws in California. And I received a text earlier today from a friend of mine who was asking, were you at Texas Tech in 2001? And I was a freshman at Texas Tech in 2001. And just kind of what makes me remember this is we had cell phones, right? You had cell phones in 2001, but it still wasn't as easy to get a hold of somebody as it is today. Today, it's a lot easier. If you need to get a hold of somebody, whether it's through text, whether it's through, FaceTime, email. I mean, it's so much easier now to get a hold of somebody if you really need to. And then back in 2001, yeah, you had the cell phones, but it was still, I don't know, a little bit more cumbersome, if you will, just to send a text. Remember, you had to type in like 3 different letters. You had to hit the letter 3 times in order to get what you wanted. As far as the letter goes, you had to hit each number 3 times and go through everything. It was a little bit more difficult. You didn't have the iPhone. Back in 2001. You couldn't FaceTime anybody and say, "Hey, we're good, we're fine, we're doing just okay." Let's see. I'll get more into what I remember about that day in the next hour. Let's see, more textures on the debate last night. Talking about Trump, he looked tired. You'd probably look tired too with all the stuff that Trump has been through since he announced running. He should look tired, right? He should look a little bit tired after all the crap that he's had to go through. I'll give him a pass on that, but he did look a little bit tired. Yeah, I mean, just being shot at and hit in the ear. I mean, that alone would make you a little bit tired. Just of this whole thing. Being prosecuted by a weaponized DOJ. That would make you tired. That would, if anyone deserves to look tired, it's Donald Trump. Bill, North Carolina, the debate wasn't fair. I never watched ABC Disney. Now I'm boycotting Disney. Hit them in their pocketbooks. Another texter says, let's see. I wonder if there's any truth to the fact Kamala was wearing earpieces and got the questions ahead of time. She wouldn't need to. This wasn't a hard debate for Kamala Harris. This was an easy debate for Kamala. Kamala didn't need, maybe she got the questions beforehand. I don't know. Even then, these weren't hard questions. These were not, she was not pressed on anything. Kamala Harris, people forget about this. Kamala Harris is a prosecutor. When she is rehearsed, if you watch prosecutors, when it comes down to opening statements, closing statements, when it comes down to that, they're very rehearsed and they know how to get the attention of the jury, right? That's what Kamala Harris has to do. As a prosecutor, that's what Kamala Harris has to do. She got the attention of the jury. The people who are working for her, and even the people working for Trump, they should know just about what type of questions are going to come their way. What is ABC going to ask? What are these moderators going to ask? What type of issues are they going to talk about? She didn't need an earpiece. You know, everyone likes to throw in the earpiece conspiracy, both on the left and the right. Anytime someone has a good debate, oh, well, they're wearing an earpiece, they have to be wearing an earpiece. Kamala Harris didn't need to wear an earpiece. It wasn't a tough debate for Kamala Harris. This was a cookie cutter, easy debate for Kamala Harris. Again, it was 3 versus 1. She didn't have to wear an earpiece. The moderators, they were talking right there. They didn't have to tell her. They didn't have to have anyone helping her. Her team didn't have to help her. She had all the help she needed right there. So no, I'm not gonna bother with was she wearing an earpiece or not an earpiece. No, I don't think she was. I think that she participated in a very easy debate for her, and one that was trained to go 100% against Donald Trump. That's really what it was all about. And Would it surprise me if someone at ABC told the Kamala camp, hey, listen, we're going to be really tough on Trump. You don't have to worry about it. Wouldn't surprise me. They're all in on this together. Donald Trump never should have accepted a debate with ABC News. But he did. He should have known what he was getting himself into. And I still think he did an okay job. He wasn't a disaster. There are some people who say that he was a complete disaster last night. I don't think that. I just don't think he sealed the deal. I think he left a lot on the table last night. That's what was disappointing for me, is that I think he left a lot on the table last night and that he was on defense the entire night instead of turning it around in a classic Trump way and playing offense. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, more on what you remember from 9/11. Another texter says 2001 cell phones were just still mobile phones. True. They weren't very fancy. Not compared to what we have now. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media. Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Final hour of the program as we continue to take a look back on last night's debate. Get your thoughts on it. Also, we're looking back on 9/11/2001. Where were you? What do you remember about the day? What do you remember about just that entire time? What do you remember about it? We pledged that we would never forget. One of the ways we never forget is to continue to talk about it and to remember that day. Every single year here on the program, we do this, and we listen to the stories that are told, and of course want to hear from you. You can text in at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Also taking your thoughts on last night's debates. You can text in Kim in Lubbock, texting in about last night's debate. I tend to look at the positive. One box that Trump did check, he didn't come off as mean. And if I recall, it's all I've heard from people as a complaint about him for the last 8 years. In spite of it being 3-1, the debate was really a wash because it was not a win for Kamala. The other good that I saw was his closing speech was very to the point and did check off a lot of boxes. And that's true. He ended it very, very well. He ended it very, very, very well. The problem with that is that very few people watched the full 2 hours. I mean, let's be honest. Very few people watched the full 2. Those who enjoy politics watched it. Those whose job it is to watch politics, we watched it. Those of you who were at the debate watch party, you watched it. But for a lot of people, they're going to turn it off. And for those who are the people who don't really care about politics and everything else, after an hour, they usually give up and they go somewhere else. So that is one of my biggest complaints from Trump last night, is that I wish the final statement that he gave, I wish he would have moved it up. I wish he would have said it numerous times during the first hour that, Kamala, you have all these plans. You say you had all these plans. Where have you been the last 4 years? Where have you been the last 4 years? Now, I think he did very well when it came to Afghanistan. I think he did very well when it came to hammering the border. I think he did very well when it came to the economy. I think those things he did very well. There was also another time where Kamala Harris would argue with Trump and go back and forth, even though her microphone was supposed to be turned off. There were times where, most of the time, Kamala Harris would argue with Trump. Did you recognize a moment? Did you recognize a moment last night where Kamala Harris did not argue a point made by Donald Trump? And do you remember what that point was? It was sneaky. It was very good by Donald Trump. He got into it, and she gave him a look like, how dare you? And she did this deal where she touched her chin, like, how dare you? I can't believe he's doing this. I can't believe he's going there. And I'm wondering how many people actually picked up on this. There was a point last night where Donald Trump called Kamala Harris a Marxist. Do you remember this? Do you remember when Donald Trump called her a Marxist? He said she's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father was a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. Kamala Harris didn't deny any of that. Kamala Harris didn't come back and say, whoa. No, I am not a Marxist. I am not a Marxist. She didn't deny any of that. Now, maybe she didn't understand the word. I don't know. But she didn't deny any of it. She didn't deny that her father was a Marxist professor. She can't, because it's true. Now, she didn't have any problem lying any other time last night. She didn't have any problem lying about Charlottesville and ABC News, the little fact checkers that they were, the little fact checker honeybees that they were. They didn't. They always wanted to fact check Donald Trump, but they didn't fact check Harris. Not at all. Not one time. But I thought that was an interesting moment. It was one that, if you weren't really paying attention, it was in and out. Because Trump didn't hammer her on it afterwards. He didn't go back to it. But she basically argued with Trump on everything last night. On just about every single point, she got into it. She argued with Trump. Except that one. She didn't argue with that. She didn't argue about being a Marxist. She didn't argue about her father being a Marxist economics professor. And I thought that was an interesting moment in last night's debate. And it was one that, if you weren't really paying attention, if you were, there were so many other points last night that were going on that you may have missed it or you may have forgotten about it. And the average person, they may not have noticed, they may not have cared, but I thought that was an interesting moment last night in the debate. Mark in California weighed in. Even with 3-on-1, he had opportunities to call her out. And again, I think this is where Trump, it's almost as though he got, it's almost like there was so much in Trump's head that he would get going and he would fall back into either illegal immigration, or he would get going and lose his train of thought on something. And maybe that's where the tiredness kicks in. I don't know, but it's almost like there was so much that he wanted to say that he got tripped up, because there's a lot to attack Kamala Harris on, and it never really came to fruition. There were a few moments, but overall, again, with how you could have, I think, really slammed the door on Kamala Harris last night, it really didn't happen. So what does this mean? What does this mean moving forward for Donald Trump and for Kamala Harris? Does this mean that she's going to get a big bounce in the polls? I really don't think she will. Now, I could be wrong. But I don't think that this means it's over. Even CNN, they have a piece out by Stephen Collinson. Harris bests Trump in the debate, but there's no guarantee it'll shape the election. Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris in a virtual coin toss before the presidential debate. That's about all he won from the opening moments Tuesday night when the vice president strode over to Trump's podium and all but forced him to shake her hand. She dictated the terms of their critical clash exactly 8 weeks before Election Day. From Harris's point of view, the night could have hardly have gone better. She came across as energetic, brimmed with a positive future vision. Trump ranted and blasted America's a failing nation and seemed off his game. The vice president, who has sometimes struggled in spontaneous situations, delivered the most imposing performance of her political career. Trump, who had gone into the debate predicting that he'd prove boxing champ Mike Tyson's maxim that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, was himself stunned by multiple jabs and landed few in return. And of course, remember, he was going against 3 people. At a time when nearly a third of voters suggested in a recent poll that they wanted to know more about Harris, the vice president's performance seemed more likely to expand her coalition. I disagree with that. I think Kamala Harris came across well last night, but I don't believe she explained who or what she believes. Even at a time when she was asked, have your values changed? Have you changed? She could not explain her flip-flops on issues. She said that her values haven't changed, that she's still that same person, but that her views have changed on some issues. Her views haven't changed, folks. She's still a far leftist. She wasn't able to dictate what her plans were, just that she has plans. She's got plans to do this. She's got plans to do that. She's got plans to make America great again. Again, I think it was a good moment when Trump said that she's going to be wearing a MAGA hat sometime soon. So she told people, I've got a plan. She told people, I have a plan. But she couldn't tell anyone what those plans were or how they were going to get there, how she was going to do something or get anything done. She wasn't able to dictate that. So that's why I think even though it may have been a good debate for her, when people step back a little bit from the debate and start thinking, okay, well, Kamala Harris, she won that debate. She seemed like she did really well. Well, what did you learn about Kamala Harris? Well, I learned that Kamala Harris really does well when the ABC News moderators support her. I mean, really, can you tell me anything new today about Kamala Harris that you didn't that you did not know before the debate? Did you learn anything new about Kamala Harris? Did you learn anything new about Kamala Harris's plans? And that's what the Republicans should be out saying today and throughout the rest of this week and into next week. Okay, you may have liked Kamala Harris. She may have come across as likable. She may have come across as someone who cares. But what are her plans? What is she actually going to do? How is she going to accomplish anything? Does she even know how she's going to get anything done? Versus Donald Trump, who has already done it. He's already had a good economy. He's already shut down the border. He's already done all of these things, and he can do it again. That's the argument now moving forward, is that you may have liked Kamala Harris. She may have come across as likable in that, or at least somewhat likable in that debate. At least more likable than what you thought. She may have come across as someone who wasn't just a crazy person. But what are her actual plans? I watched I think it was CNN last night, and they had this focus group. And a couple of women in the focus group, they said that their favorite moment from Kamala Harris was when she was talking about abortion. That she really seemed like she cared about the abortion issue. But you know what they also said? That they didn't agree with her. They said that she seemed real when she was talking about the abortion issue, that she came across as someone who cared about the issue and cared about women, but they disagreed with her. Well, that doesn't mean you're going to vote for it. If you come across as caring, but you disagree with the policy, you're not going to vote for that person. There was also another group out there who said that they liked Kamala Harris better than they thought they would, and that they believe she won the debate, but they don't know what she stands for. That they could not define any of the plans from Kamala Harris. That's a problem for Kamala Harris. And that's why I think last night it wasn't a complete disaster. I had people texting me from all over the place saying this is a disaster. And I said, no, slow down. It's not a complete disaster. It's not great. It's not the slam dunk we wanted. It wasn't a home run like we wanted. But this isn't going to shift the election, in my opinion. Again, I could be wrong. But I think when people step back from this and they go, yeah, Kamala Harris, she did really well in that debate. Okay, tell me what her plan is to get the economy back on track. Well, she didn't say exactly. Okay, well, she's been part of this administration, which has screwed up the economy. Who do you trust more when it comes to the economy? Donald Trump, who has fixed it before and could probably fix it again, or Kamala Harris, who's been part of this administration? Well, I trust the guy who already did it once. That's the message that has to be hammered home from now until Election Day. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, and more.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
I'm Scarlett Johansson. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. You can join the movement to end hunger by donating, volunteering, and advocating. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Rachel in Slayton says, I didn't watch the debate because I've already made up my mind. I know who I'm going to vote for, quite frankly. I can't stand the sight of Harris. She makes me nauseous. I think you're right. Trump pulled punches because he didn't want to be mean. I'll take a meme tweet over a war in Ukraine or leaving people in Afghanistan any day. I don't know if he pulled his punches because he didn't want to come across as mean. I don't know if Trump thinks that way, to be honest with you. I think Trump looks at it as if you're equal enough to go in the ring, you're going to get blasted. So I don't. And listen, Kamala Harris kept on saying we don't need to call each other names. She was, if you want to say mean or someone who was rude, she was much more ruder in using derogatory names than he was. I mean, much ruder. Harris said a lot of words, but I have no idea what she's going to do except demand the freedom to kill babies. She didn't really understand that it's in the state's hands, therefore not a federal issue. No. Kamala, don't get confused. Kamala Harris isn't stupid. She is a prosecutor. She is a smart woman who has horrible policies. She knows exactly what she's doing when she says that Trump is going to pass a ban on abortion. She knows exactly what's going on with the abortion issue being in the hands of the states right now. She knows exactly what she's doing when she lies about this in front of the American people. She's not confused. She knows exactly what she's doing with it. She when she calls it the Trump abortion ban, she knows exactly. She is labeling it. She is putting that ban on Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump did not ban abortion. Donald Trump is not in favor of banning abortion. In fact, there have been pro-life groups very upset with Donald Trump because they don't think he goes far enough. So this idea that she doesn't understand that it's in the state's hands, therefore not a federal issue. No. She wants women to think that Trump is going to ban abortion. She wants women to believe in independence, to believe that Trump is going to do this. Just like, and Trump rightly called her out on this, Kamala Harris knows she's never going to have the votes to put into the Constitution an abortion protection. She'll never have the votes for it. They've never had the votes for it. That's why they've never done it. And yet Kamala says she'll do it. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. Today's markets from the Texas Department of Ag.
Well, howdy, neighbors. Texas feeder cattle auctions were down, reporting prices $3 to $10 lower. But cattle futures were up. October live cattle futures up 63 cents, closed at $176.95. September feeder cattle futures up $2.08, closed at $240.55. October cotton futures were up and closed at $69.31. September wheat futures up a nickel, closed at $5.63 a bushel. September corn up a penny to close at $3.79. And September soybean futures up a couple of cents, closed at $9.79 a bushel. September soybean meal futures up $2.70, closed at $313.30 per ton. September Class V milk futures up 3 pennies, closed at $23.14 a hundred. October crude oil futures up $1.37, closed at $67.12 per barrel. And the Dow Jones up 114 points, closing at 40,851. And that's the market roundup from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm your commissioner, Sid Miller. And remember, friends, Texas agriculture matters. Sold.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Don't you forget about Chad. at Chad Hasty Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and on your radio. Now back to the Chad Hasty Show.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Texture weighs in. I wish that when Kamala kept saying that she would protect the most vulnerable people, that President Trump would have thought to ask her what an unborn child is. They are very most vulnerable. She's willing to kill them so a woman can have birth control. And again, I think that there was a really good part last night when Trump asked Kamala Harris, "Is there a point where you would cut off abortion? Is there a time limit? She wouldn't answer the question. She wouldn't answer the question, and I think that's important to remember. 806-680-2790. Another text coming in. Texter says, earlier today I heard on another talk show, same station, listening to your show and the host said Kamala and the head of ABC have been really good friends for 30 years. I think it was Hannity. Listening to these radio shows all day today explains the bias even more. Well, this it may have been Hannity. Let me bring this up here. This is from the New York Post. And it's Dana Walden, a senior Disney exec whose portfolio includes ABC News, is one of the vice president's extraordinary friends, according to a report in the New York Times. Walden and Harris have known each other since 1994, while their husbands have known each other since the 1980s. Dana Walden has donated to dozens of Democrats, contributed to Harris's political campaign since at least 2003, when she ran for district attorney in San Francisco. She went on to donate to her subsequent campaigns for California Attorney General and U.S. Senate, as well as her 2020 White House bid. Harris even credited Dana and Matt for her marriage at a fundraiser in 2022, which was held at Walden's home in Los Angeles. ABC told the New York Times that Walden is Disney's highest-ranking television executive, does not weigh in on editorial decisions. Okay. Sure. I'm sure when the highest-ranking TV exec walks into the room and goes, hey, y'all are going to be nice to my good friend Kamala Harris, right? I'm sure that has no sway on anyone over at ABC News. I'm sure they're like, forget her. Who does she think she is? The highest ranking TV exec in Disney? Come on. Now, I will say this. It is extremely possible that this lady had nothing to do with last night's debate. I know some of you are going, come on, Chad. No, it's very possible. ABC News was already in the tank for Kamala Harris. ABC News was already in the tank for Kamala Harris. David Muir was already in the tank for Kamala Harris. The other moderator, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, she was already in the tank for Kamala Harris. You think they were going to be friendly towards Trump? Remember, this is all one cesspool, okay? You can't separate the Democrat Party from the major TV news media at all. You can't do it. You can kind of do a little bit of separation from Fox News, but even the board of Fox, they're pretty deep in the swamp. They got to wear their waders on that side. But no, the TV news side, they're all in on this. This is why I said earlier when Joe Biden wanted to, or when the Biden campaign had Joe debate Trump early on, CNN was in on the game. They knew exactly what was going to happen. They knew what was. They knew the game was afoot. They knew what was going to happen in that debate. There's no one out there. There's no one in the news media that has decided all of a sudden, we kind of like Donald Trump. No one out there has done that. They all hate the guy. They need him for ratings, but they don't like the guy. At ABC, they want to be cool with Kamala. Same with NBC. Same with CBS. They all want to be cool with Kamala Harris. They want to be in. They remember what it was like when Barack Obama was president. He was cool, calm, and collected, and they want to be in. And by the way, if you're lucky, and you get cool enough, and you're hip enough to hang out with Kamala Harris, guess what happens? You might get to write a book about Kamala Harris, and you might make some money off of that. That's what they want. They want to be best friends. They want to be BFFs with Kamala Harris. So it's very possible that this Disney exec had nothing to do with last night's debate. That this was just ABC News. This was just David Muir and the other chick. It's very possible. This was just who they are and what they wanted to do. Let's go to the phones before the break. And Ruckus, what's going on, Ruckus?
Hey, Chad, how are you today?
Doing great, man. How are you?
Pretty good. So after the debate last night, my wife and I were talking, and, Kamala did okay. She didn't fall flat. She didn't really stumble. My concern is that as absent as she has been this entire 3.5 years, that this was a lot of people's first exposure to her.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of worried that as far as her performance last night, people are, maybe independents and some really, really soft Republicans might be like, oh, look, she's got, something going on, and might kind of get behind her. And, and it's really easy for someone to stand up there, especially with Trump being, and earlier in the show I think a texter said Trump looked tired. Of course he looked tired. I mean, he's exhausted. He's tired of everybody's crap. He's tired of being persecuted. But Trump really was pretty. He was showing his emotions last night, and Kamala wasn't really coming across as quite joyful, but I didn't feel this way, but I can see how maybe an independent and especially maybe Gen Zers could see her as, wow, she's standing up and she's, the truth to power crap. And it's really easy to see somebody on TV saying, okay, this guy's lying and believe it when you don't know the truth of her and the last 3.5 years of what she's done and her policies.
And when you've been told by the media for I don't know how long that Trump's a liar and that he's dangerous. And this is what's been said for him since he came down the escalators, that he was this mean, evil guy and he's a liar. And when Kamala Harris is sitting there and acts like a prosecutor and tries to win people over, again, she knows how to do it. She knows how to play the personal card and try to prey on people's emotions. She can do that, and she knows how to do it. And I think that's what she was doing last night. Again, last night was a good debate for Kamala Harris. And you're right, Ruckus. If people were just now tuning in and had no idea about Kamala Harris and had no idea that she was part of the brain trust, if you will, of the administration, they probably really liked Kamala Harris. And that's something that the Republicans are going to have to go in and try to beat. They're going to have to try to figure it out.
And I really see Trump having a hard time against her because, unfortunately, she was able to get him ruffled and she was able to get him. And, he was beating the immigration thing to death. And I understand where he's coming from, and you know, it needs to be said, but there were so much better things that he could have said last night. But hey, I'm not the one running for president, so you know.
Yeah, Ruckus, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. I do think that Trump went maybe one or two times. He went. It's like he kept falling back to illegal immigration when there were other things he could have gone to hit Kamala on, but that it was all happening so quickly. He just kept going back to illegal immigration, which was a big issue. It is a big issue. But I think after reminding people of it for 45 minutes, you could have reminded people about other aspects of Kamala Harris. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, we'll wrap things up.
Train I ride, 16 coaches long.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
I'll trust water bottles and a flashlight to save the day, but I'll be proved wrong.
With a tornado approaching, I'll realize that I like a wheelchair-accessible shelter.
When the floodwaters rise, I'll be up in the attic with 20 cans of beans. It's a recipe for disaster.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show as we begin to wrap things up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Let's see. We've had a lot of talk on last night's debates, and we'll kind of continue that over the next couple of days. Just some of the fallout from it. Again, I don't think it'll sway any big polls out there or anything else. So we'll see. Also, we've had a lot of great stories tonight. A lot of great people remembering where they were on 9/11. For myself, I was a freshman over at Texas Tech, 2001, and was heading to in my first class, I guess, and we all started turning on the TVs and figuring out what was going on, and saw a plane hitting the tower. Went back to the dorm because basically we all of our professors just started canceling class and saying go back to the dorms, call your parents, let them know you're okay. Go and today's going to be a big day in history. It'll be much more important. What happens on what you watch today was much more important than what you will learn in the classroom. So go home. So we all went home. Everybody went home. And I remember being in the dorms, and I was over in Murdo, and just watching over and over again the attacks. And my roommate in the dorms, he had slept in, didn't have any idea, had no clue what was going on, walked in and asked me what movie I was watching. He was surprised I was skipping classes. And what movie are you watching? I said, it's not a movie. This is real. And we just sat there. It was all day. It felt like all day we just sat there and watched. And so many of the other dorm rooms had, their doors open and just people yelling at each other. And you could hear whenever there was a replay of whether it was the tower crashing or the planes crashing into the towers or in the Pentagon. you could just hear people yelling and hoping that it wasn't true again, that this was just like some dream. And had some very good friends who came over, and we, just kind of hunkered down in the dorm room, and I heard from my parents numerous times during the day. And it was it's just one of those days and times, and I remember going out, and it seemed like everybody bought an American flag in our dorms, and we all put them in the windows, and it was just a time of being united afterwards. But it was definitely a day I'll never forget. One hell of a way to move away from home and go out to Lubbock, Texas, and away from the DFW area, and then just right. How do you start the college years? You deal with this, and it definitely changed America. Definitely changed everybody's lives on that day. 806-680-2790. Elizabeth weighed in. She's celebrating a birthday today. Happy birthday, Elizabeth. I've been listening the last 30 minutes. This comment may be redundant, although I don't think Trump had his finest hour last night. I do think he was solid. Harris had her best on-screen performance ever, which is somewhat troubling. But let's look at it this way. Most of us Trump supporters thought that Trump winning the election was more or less a slam dunk. Now we see it's really not. That's good. It'll motivate everyone to get out and vote. It'll motivate people like me to make sure that all my friends are registered and really get going to vote. That'll close the gap between registered voters and registered voters that actually get out and vote. Thus, cheating will be more difficult. Just a thought. Good thoughts. Good thoughts on that. We'll continue to look at it throughout the week. Again, I don't think we'll see any big changes in the polls. In fact, I think that the momentum is still behind Donald Trump as of right now. We'll see. We'll see what happens over the next few days and few weeks. That's for sure. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe. Stay healthy. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.